Good morning, and I'd like to say before I start that I haven't done a lot of videos over the summer, and I actually made a video talking about that which I never got round to uploading, and the reason I never uploaded it is the same reason as I've not been putting out a lot of videos, and that is because during the summer my boy is off and I'm spending most of my time with him, but now he's back at school and I've got some more time to dedicate to YouTube and to you lot basically. So today I wanted to sit down and encapsulate some of the things that have occurred to me over the summer, some of the stories I haven't really covered, and sort of bring them into one video and talk about an issue that's been bugging me more and more over the last few weeks. And the issue is, as the title may have suggested to you, to do with games and where games are going. And I have a real problem with some of the things that are occurring. First off, let's talk about where games were going earlier in the year and how it looked. Well, at the start of the year, it looked really positive and it looked like we were going to get some great games. And in fact, we did get some great games. The game that really struck me early on was Horizon Zero Dawn. Then we got Nier Automata, we got Persona 5, games I didn't play. But I did play Horizon Zero Dawn. I haven't finished it yet, but it's a great game. And it's also a game that stands out to me as the kind of game that I can get behind because the developer puts out a game, it's a complete game, a finished item, you can play through it, it's a lot of hours of gameplay, the gameplay's good fun, it's got a reasonably good story, it looks phenomenal, and you know, what's not to like about it? Okay, it might not be your cup of tea, but even if it's not your cup of tea, you can see that it's a quality product. And then later this year, they're going to be issuing some DLC, and hopefully that'll be a decent amount of DLC that you can get into and play as well. And it's the kind of way I think games should be released. You get a game, you play the game, and then a little while down the line, you get some DLC that they've been working on while you've been playing the game. And for a long time, that was the kind of model we had, and it's a really good model as far as I'm concerned. It's fine for the publishers, it's fine for the developers, and more importantly, it's fine for the game player, for the people playing the game itself. When we had these games, though, people were even beginning to talk about this year as possibly rivaling 2007 as the best year ever in video game history. Then we started getting the more negative stories, didn't we? And we had Persona 5 started issuing copyright strikes. That was a minor one, but it irritated me somewhat. We had the issue with Call of Duty, and obviously last year we had Advanced Warfare and the Legacy Edition and all the crap relating to that. And then they went in and piled shit on top of shit by having a standalone issue of Modern Warfare with a full price and paid DLC. Oh, and microtransactions. Instead of putting the DLC that had already been issued for the game on the disc or as a download for free. Why not do that? You know, it's a cash-in, isn't it? Then we had Battlefront 2 microtransactions, which I did a video about, Middle-earth, Shadow of War microtransactions, and then, you know, just this last week, the poor taste they showed in charging for a tribute to one of the people who was working on the game, who had worked on the game. And apparently the developers liked this guy. He was a nice guy and he died. And it was a terrible story. And they go and cash in by charging for that character that they've put in the game that relates to this person. And that was appalling. And okay, then they backtracked and said they were going to be paying the money that they made from it to charity. Yeah, anyway, that's another story. There's videos about that, but it's all very cynical. And then, obviously, we had EA talking about Ultimate Team coming to all games. Whoopee fucking do. Great, wonderful, lovely. And then COD again, with its mandatory supply drops, now known as care packages, in the World War II one they're bringing out, which is a game that normally I would be looking at playing because I prefer the old style of COD, and you know, I'll wait and see what happens with that one. And then again, just this last week we have Destiny, and Destiny 2 is going to have game-changing gambling. And yeah, I'm using the term gambling. It's a gambling system that will only cut in when you're well and truly invested in the game. So it doesn't cut in straight away. I think you have to get to something like level 10 or something before you can start having the packs that you buy. So you can buy them and then you open the packs and you might get something that will increase your power or give you a better weapon or whatever it is. I don't play Destiny, so you guys can let me know in the comments about the details of that one. How cynical is that of Bungie to do that? To have it cutting in later on down the line? And, even Nintendo with their pricing and their draconian business practices are starting to look a lot better than some of these publishers. And, well, my views on Nintendo and their policies. I think if they're starting to look good in relation to some of the other companies out there, then there's something seriously wrong. Give it time, though. I'm sure they'll catch up. And just when you think that, okay, I'll give up on the AAAs and I'll look at the indie scene, what do we get? We get the indie scene trying to get in on the act as well. We all know about the No Man's Sky debacle and the way they turned that from an indie game into a supposedly AAA game with fuck all content in it. And now we've had Ark Survival Evolved taking the piss by releasing DLC before the game's released and hiking the price up as well. And then We Happy Few, which almost takes the biscuit by partnering with Gearbox and becoming a AAA game. And guess what they're doing? They're adding a season pass. And God knows what else we're going to get down the line as well. So, I don't know. I'm starting to think that We Happy Few refers to the developers and publishers laughing all the way to the bank as they screw us gamers over. But all these things, they're all individual things, but they all amount to a much bigger issue. Gaming's more popular than ever, and it's got a more diverse and active player base, which may not last if this carries on. But, if you look at this year, the profit motive has come to the front to the detriment of virtually every other part of the production process, it seems to me. The publishers, it seems, are... And I don't know how much of this is publishers and how much of this is developers. I would assume it's the publishers, but who knows? They're pushing more and more for finding ways of making more and more money. Overall, for me, it's been a pretty depressing few months after a really positive start to the year. We're seeing games go from must-buy items to cynical cash cows that exist solely to wring every last penny out of gamers' wallets. And for me, and this is the sort of crux of this video, what we're seeing, in my view, is a major shift in what gaming is. If you look at the publishers and developers, they've seen just how much money is being made in the world of free-to-play games, and they want a piece of the pie. In fact, if you look at it, it's not that they want a piece of the pie. They don't even want the whole pie. They want to own the fucking bakery. But is it sustainable? I know there are people who are going to come on here and elsewhere. Loads of gamers out there will make excuses for these practices. And they'll turn all kinds of intellectual cartwheels in order to justify their purchases. And, I've railed against those people in the past, but even people like me will probably get sucked into buying one or more of these games if we can justify it in some way to ourselves. I mean, I've been doing it for fucking years with FIFA. Oh, it's all right, I'll never play Ultimate Team. Whoa, way, great for me. I justify it year after year, and then I go out and buy the game. And as I said in a previous video, it seems that these microtransactions, which Ultimate Team is basically a way of shoehorning microtransactions into a game and getting people to keep spending, the game's lost its focus. It's concentrating entirely on the money and the microtransactions to the detriment of the way the game plays and the way the game feels and, the artistic elements of the game. And okay, I know this game still looks good and all the rest of it, but they've introduced what is, in effect, a gambling economy that grows up around the microtransactions. And as I said, that's the bigger issue for me here. If this continues, we're literally changing what gaming is. And we're changing what we are as gamers too, if we buy into this. And yeah, I know in some cases we can ignore the microtransactions. But just like with gambling, These microtransactions are designed to get our attention and to keep us playing and to keep us spending. You know, I've said this before, but if you look at each of these games that are coming out this year, nearly every single AAA, if not all the AAAs, are incorporating microtransactions in some way. And we get the term games as service. And okay, the large games that keep offering you more product as time goes on, that's not such a bad thing in and of itself. And I'm sure there are some clever people out there in the gaming industry who could see a way of making them work without creating an economy based around addiction. But the problem is, there's a conflict of interest because the incentive just isn't there to make a game that doesn't pull in more and more money. The money's just too much. You're talking billions here. And for me, if gaming continues down this path, it will change beyond all recognition. And not in a good way either. Look, we've already had plenty of stories about people spending hundreds and even thousands of pounds on microtransactions. That is not a good thing. But for every extreme story, you can bet there are many, many more people out there who are spending maybe 50 quid here and there. And it's amounts that they can maybe afford. But is it a good thing? Is it a good idea that you keep throwing good money after bad just to keep playing a game? Would you do it with a book? Would you do it with music? I don't know. Would you? The only other area that I can see that does this kind of thing is, as I've already said, gambling. And look, I know, and I've argued this myself, that you can't legislate for the extremes. You can't make policy based on the people who will go to the far ends of a behaviour. You can't make alcohol policy because of alcoholics. And I would say this about other issues as well, but I'm not going to get into that here. But even if you created no addicts at all, and as I have said already, this kind of microeconomy will create addicts. Even if you don't know, even if you could stop that happening, you're still changing the look and feel of the games the rest of us have to play. And that, for me, is destroying what games are. It's changing it to the point where they're becoming all but unrecognisable to me. And I'm feeling that I'm watching my hobby disappear because the artistic and competitive elements that make games so enjoyable are being lost under this shitstorm of microtransactions and all the other crap that these companies are trying to foist on us in order to screw us of more and more and more money. All I can hope is that this is just the latest fad and we'll emerge from it in a few years with a much healthier industry once the people in charge realise what a mistake they're making. But you know what? I don't hold out much hope because money talks. But what do you think? Do you think this year's gone from being a potentially fantastic year in gaming to, well, basically being one of the worst ever? Or do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think I'm talking shit? Do you think I should just forget about it and just play my games and ignore the microtransactions? And, you know, as I've said, I don't think you can ignore them. They're so much part of what games are now, certainly this year, that I don't know as you can ignore it. But, you know, you might think I'm wrong. And if you do, let me know in the comments. We'll have a chat about it. Maybe you've got a slightly different view to me. And again, we can talk about it. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and do my usual thing and go and get a cup of tea. And I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.